crime lord with global empire meets undercover policewoman at his luxury restaurant and falls in love, not knowing who she is. Hey there, I'm Alex, your guide through today's extraordinary tale on Hearts of Crime. What you're about to witness is a story of passion and danger that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Trust me, when I say the twist at the end will leave you absolutely speechless. If you enjoy these forbidden love stories, please hit that like button and drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our daily uploads of these incredible stories. Stay with me until the very end. I promise the conclusion will shock you in ways you can't imagine. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. Have a wonderful day, and may God bless you and your family. The black Bentley glided to a stop outside Lumiere, the crown jewel in Nathan Chase's restaurant empire. He stepped out, his Italian shoes making contact with the pavement as 3 bodyguards immediately flanked him. He straightened his custom Brioni suit and observed his domain with detached satisfaction. Nathan didn't simply own this restaurant, he owned this entire street, and much more beyond what the eye could see. His public persona was that of a brilliant entrepreneur who had built a global luxury hospitality empire. Few knew that beneath this glossy exterior operated one of the most sophisticated drug distribution networks in the Northern Hemisphere. Inside, Lumiere buzzed with Manhattan's elite. Nathan moved through the restaurant with practiced ease, nodding at familiar faces, politicians, celebrities, business tycoons, all of whom believed they were simply dining at the most exclusive restaurant in the city, unaware they were inside the living room of a cartel kingpin. "Everything running smoothly, James?" Nathan asked his manager, a man who had been with him since the beginning. "Perfectly, sir, though there is one matter that might interest you." Table 7. Nathan's eyes drifted across the room to table 7, where a woman sat alone studying the menu. For a moment he froze. She was stunning. Olive skin, dark hair falling in waves past her shoulders, and an elegance that seemed effortless rather than manufactured. "Who is she?" Nathan asked, unable to take his eyes off her. "Patricia Underwood. First time here. Apparently a curator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. She called for a reservation last minute. We had a cancellation." Nathan rarely took interest in individual guests anymore. His empire had grown too vast for such personal touches, but something about this woman triggered his curiosity. "Send her a bottle of the 82 Lafitte on the house." Across the restaurant, Olivia Mills felt the weight of someone's highest gaze. Years of undercover work had honed her senses to a razor's edge. She didn't need to look up to know she was being watched. Her cover identity as Patricia Underwood, art curator, had taken months to craft. The real Patricia was enjoying an extended sabbatical in Europe, courtesy of the FBI's Witness Protection Program, while Olivia borrowed her life. For 2 years, the Bureau had been building a case against Nathan Chase. On paper, he was a legitimate business magnate with a golden touch. In reality, they believed him to be the mastermind behind an elaborate network that laundered billions and controlled drug distribution channels across 3 continents. But proving it had been nearly impossible. Chase was careful, insulated by layers of proxies and seemingly untouchable. The sommelier approached her table with a bottle she recognized as one that cost more than her monthly salary. "Compliments of Mr. Chase," he said, presenting the bottle. She allowed a flicker of surprise to cross her face. "That is very generous. Is Mr. Chase here this evening?" "He is indeed. He rarely misses a Friday at Lumiere." Olivia took a sip of the wine and nodded appreciatively. When she looked up, she found herself locking eyes with a man across the room. She had studied Nathan Chase's photos for months, but they hadn't captured his commanding presence. Tall with sharp features softened by an unexpected warmth in his eyes, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never known failure. The plan had never been for her to interact with Chase directly. She was supposed to embed herself in his world peripherally, gathering intelligence and identifying weaknesses in his organization. Direct contact with the target was risky. Yet here he was, walking toward her table. "Miss Underwood, I hope you're re-enjoying the wine." His voice was deeper than she had imagined, with a hint of gravel that suggested he hadn't been born into wealth. "It's exquisite, though "I'm not sure what I've done to deserve such hospitality," she replied, offering a smile that was genuine despite herself. "Let us just say I like seeing new faces appreciate fine things." He gestured to the chair across from her. "May I?" Every instinct told her to maintain distance. Getting too close to a target compromised objectivity, but refusing him would be suspicious for the character she was playing. "Please," she said, gesturing to the seat. Nathan sat down with a grace that belied his imposing frame. "James tells me you were a curator at the Met." "I am. Ancient Mediterranean art specifically." "Really? I recently acquired a Greek amphora, that S, supposedly from the 5th century BC. I love your opinion on it." Olivia felt a flash of panic. Her background knowledge was solid, but not comprehensive enough to authenticate Greek pottery. "I'd be happy to take a look, though I should warn you I specialize more in Roman artifacts." Nathan laughed, and the sound was surprisingly genuine. "I have no idea if it's authentic or if my art advisor is robbing me blind. Either way, it gives me an excuse to invite you for dinner at my home." The invitation presented both opportunity and danger. Access to Chase S. private residence would be an intelligence goldmine, but it would also put her directly in the Lion-S den. "That's very forward of you, Mr. Chase." "Nathan, please. And yes, I am told I can be rather direct when I see something, or someone, that interests me." Their conversation flowed with unexpected ease. Olivia had been prepared to find a monster, a cold-blooded criminal who built his fortune on addiction and violence. Instead, she found herself engaged in a discussion about art, literature, and travel, with a man who seemed genuinely curious about her thoughts. As the evening progressed, the restaurant slowly emptied. Neither seemed to notice the passing time. Nathan spoke of his childhood in a working-class neighborhood, his father a small grocery store, his mother his dreams for him to become a doctor. He spoke of his first restaurant, opened with savings and a loan from a friend. He carefully omitted how that friend was a local drug dealer looking to launder money, or how Nathan had quickly realized that restaurants were perfect vehicles for moving cash through the system. He didn't mention how he'd eventually taken over that friend's business when the man mysteriously disappeared, or how he expanded operations across borders with a combination of business acumen and calculated brutality. Olivia shared carefully constructed stories from Patricia Edith's life, weaving in enough of her own experiences to make them feel authentic. She told him about growing up in Boston, true, her passion for history, also true, and her work at museums across the country, false. When she finally checked her watch, she was shocked to see it was nearly midnight. "I should go," she said, gathering her purse. "Thank you for the wine and the company." "Let me drive you home," Nathan offered. "That is not necessary. I insist it was late and I never forgive myself if anything happened to you." The irony wasn't lost on Olivia, concern from a man who was responsible for countless deaths. Yet there was something in his eyes that seemed genuinely protective. "All right," she conceded, knowing her handler would be furious at the risk she was taking. In the back of his Bentley, with the city lights streaming past the tinted windows, Nathan turned to her. "Have dinner with me tomorrow, at my home. I'll have my chef prepare something special." Every protocol she'd been trained to follow screamed against it, yet the opportunity to gain access to Chase S. inner sanctum was too valuable to pass up. I'd like that," she said. As the car pulled up to the address she had given, an apartment the Bureau had set up for her cover, Nathan took her hand. The touch sent an unexpected current through her. "Until tomorrow, Patricia." She smiled, hoping he couldn't hear the acceleration of her heartbeat. "Until tomorrow." As the Bentley pulled away, Olivia waited until it disappeared around the corner before pulling out a second phone, her secure line to her handler. "We have a problem," she said quietly into the phone. "Chase has invited me to his home for dinner tomorrow." "That is not a problem. That is an opportunity," came the reply. "But be careful, Mills. This man didn't build an empire by being easily fooled." "I know what I am doing," she said, though she was not entirely convinced that was true anymore. What she couldn't admit even to herself was the uncomfortable realization that had been building all evening. She found Nathan Chase fascinating, and that made him infinitely more dangerous than if he had simply been the monster she expected to find. Nathan S. estate, sat on several acres of meticulously landscaped grounds overlooking the Hudson River. As Olivia's taxi approached the wrought iron gates, she took a deep breath to steady herself. Tonight was about gathering intelligence, not being captivated by a criminal, no matter how charming he might be. The gates opened silently, and the taxi proceeded up the long, winding driveway. Security cameras tracked her approach, their presence subtle but unmistakable to her trained eye. The mansion itself was an architectural marvel of glass and stone that somehow managed to appear both imposing and inviting. A staff member greeted her at the entrance and escorted her through the grand foyer, past priceless artwork that made her cover identity as an art curator particularly useful. She mentally catalogued everything she saw: security measures, floor plan, staff members, all information that could prove valuable later. Nathan was waiting for her on a sprawling terrace that offered breathtaking views of the river. He wore a simple but undoubtedly expensive casual outfit that made him look more approachable than the business suits she'd seen him in previously. "Patricia," he said, his face lighting up with genuine pleasure. "You look stunning." She wore a simple black dress that hugged her curves without being overly provocative. The outfit had been chosen with care, sophisticated enough for her cover as a curator, but alluring enough to keep Nathan interested. "Your home is incredible," she said, accepting the glass of champagne he offered. "Just a place to sleep," he replied with a self-deprecating smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Though I admit, it looks better with you in it." Dinner was served under the stars, each course more exquisite than the last. The conversation flowed as easily as it had the night before, ranging from art to philosophy to their shared love of classic films. Olivia found herself laughing genuinely at his stories, momentarily forgetting why she was really there. "You mentioned an amphora you wanted me to look at," she asked as they finished dessert, reminding herself of her purpose. "Ah, yes, it's in my study. Come." He led her through the house to a warmly lit room lined with bookshelves. A large desk dominated one end, while comfortable leather chairs created a sitting area near a fireplace. On a pedestal in the corner sat the amphora in question, a black-figured vessel decorated with scenes of mythological battle. Olivia approached it, grateful for the crash course in Greek pottery she'd given herself that morning. She examined it carefully, noting the style, the patina, the subtle details that would mark it as either authentic or a clever forgery. "It's beautiful," she said finally. "The figures are consistent with late 6th century BC work, and the form is typical of Athenian craftsmanship from that period. I need more specialized equipment to be certain, but I believe it's authentic." Nathan watched her with undisguised admiration. "You clearly know your field." "I try," she said, offering a modest smile, while inwardly relieved that her hasty research had paid off. As she turned from the artifact, she noticed something on his desk: a leather portfolio embossed with the logo of Global Bridge Investments, one of the companies the FBI suspected was central to Chase's money laundering operation. "You work too much," she commented lightly, nodding toward the desk. "A necessary evil," he replied, following her gaze. He moved to the desk and closed the portfolio. "Even empires require constant maintenance." "And what exactly is your empire, Nathan? I know about the restaurants and hotels, but there must be more." A flicker of caution crossed his face before his easy charm reasserted itself. "Various investments, real estate, technology startups, some shipping ventures. Nothing terribly exciting." She sensed his withdrawal and knew she had pushed too far, too fast. "Well, whatever it is clearly working for you." He smiled, relaxing slightly. "It's working well enough. But tonight isn't about work." He stepped closer to her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. "Tonight is about getting to know the fascinating woman who has unexpectedly captured my attention." His proximity sent a wave of conflicting emotions through her. There was the professional awareness that getting closer to him served her mission, but beneath that was a more troubling response, an attraction she couldn't entirely attribute to her undercover role. "I'm not sure I'm all that fascinating," she said softly. "I disagree." His hand reached up to touch her face, his fingers gentle against her cheek. "There is something about you, Patricia. Something different." The moment hung between them, charged with possibility. Olivia knew she should maintain control of the situation, keep a professional distance. But when Nathan leaned in to kiss her, she didn't pull away. His lips met hers with unexpected tenderness, and for a dangerous moment, she forgot who she was, who he was, and why she was there. When they finally separated, she saw something in his eyes that complicated everything: vulnerability. "I apologize if that was too forward," he said, his usual confidence momentarily absent. "It wasn't tea," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of conflicting emotions. They returned to the terrace where they talked late into the night. Nathan spoke about his plans to expand his legitimate businesses into emerging markets, his philanthropic projects, his dreams for the future. None of it sounded like the calculating criminal she had been briefed to expect. When it came time for her to leave, he personally drove her back to her apartment, insisting it was no trouble. Outside her building, he kissed her again, this time with more certainty. "I was leaving for Hong Kong tomorrow," he said. "Business that can be postponed, but I'll be back in a week. Have dinner with me then?" "I'd like that," she replied, and was surprised to realize she meant it. Once inside her apartment, Olivia immediately secured the premises, checking for any signs that someone might have entered during her absence. Finding nothing amiss, she retrieved her secure phone from its hiding place and called her handler. "How did it go?" asked the familiar voice of Agent Gabriel Winters. "I got inside his home. High security but not impenetrable. His study contains what looks like documentation from Global Bridge Investments. Excellent work. Did you get a look at the documents?" "No," she admitted. "He is cautious, but he is beginning to trust me." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Mills, I've read your file. I know your record. You were one of our best. But I need to ask, are you maintaining proper distance from the target?" The question stung, especially because she wasn't entirely sure of the answer. "I am doing my job, sir." "See that you continue to do so. Chase isn't just some small-time operator. His organization has been linked to dozens of deaths. Behind that charming facade is a man who wouldn't hesitate to eliminate anyone who threatens his operation." "So I'm aware of that," as she said, more sharply than intended. "Good. Use his absence to do some digging. We need more than just proximity. We need evidence." After ending the call, Olivia sat in the darkness of her apartment, replaying the evening in her mind. The logical part of her brain catalogued the useful information she'd gathered: the layout of Chase's home, the names of staff members, the companies mentioned in passing. But another part of her kept returning to the moment on the terrace, the look in his eyes when he kissed her. The following days were spent investigating Nathan's legitimate businesses, creating opportunities to interact with his staff, and building her cover identity further. She attended art exhibitions, gave a small lecture at a local gallery, and established herself as exactly who she claimed to be. She also used her specialized training to map out Nathan's network based on public records and the scraps of information she gathered. Global Bridge Investments appeared to be connected to shipping companies operating out of ports known for minimal oversight. Export businesses in countries with lax banking regulations showed mysterious capital influxes that coincided with Nathan's travel schedule. The picture that emerged confirmed what the FBI had suspected: a sophisticated operation that moved both money and goods across international boundaries with remarkable efficiency. Yet there was still no smoking gun, no piece of evidence that would definitively link Nathan Chase to criminal activity. On the evening before Nathan was due to return from Hong Kong, Olivia received an unexpected call from an unknown number. "Patricia Underwood?" asked a male voice she didn't recognize. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Martin Ellis. I am Mr. Chase and head of security. There has been a situation, and Mr. Chase asked me to contact you." Her pulse quickened. "What kind of situation?" "I'm afraid I can discuss it over the phone. Mr. Chase has arranged for a car to bring you to him. It will arrive at your building in 30 minutes. Every instinct told her it was a trap. Had her cover been blown? Had Nathan somehow discovered her true identity? "I need more information than that, Mr. Ellis." "I understand your concern, Ms. Underwood. Mr. Chase anticipated your hesitation. He asked me to tell you that the 82 Lafitte deserves an equally exceptional dinner. The man paused. He said you would understand. The reference to their first meeting seemed designed to reassure her, but it only heightened her suspicion. Still, if Nathan had discovered her identity, refusing to go would only confirm his suspicions. "Very well," she said finally. "I'll be ready." The moment she hung up, she called her handler. The call went straight to voicemail. She tried the backup number with the same result. With mounting unease, she sent a coded text message that would alert the surveillance team to her situation. 30 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up outside her building. Through the window, she could see a driver and a passenger in the front seats. Neither made a move to exit the vehicle. Taking a deep breath, she tucked her small backup weapon into an ankle holster, concealed by her pants, and went downstairs. The passenger door opened as she approached, and a man in a suit stepped out. "Ms. Underwood, I'm Martin Ellis. Thank you for coming on such short notice." He opened the rear door for her. As she slid into the back seat, she half expected to find Nathan waiting, but the seat was empty. "Where are we going?" she asked, as Ellis returned to the front passenger seat. "To the airfield. Mr. Chase S. private jet just landed from Hong Kong. He asked that you meet him there." The drive took them out of the city to a small private airstrip. Olivia maintained casual conversation with Ellis, probing for information while assessing potential threats and escape routes. The security chief's responses were polite but minimal, revealing nothing of importance. At the airstrip, a sleek Gulfstream jet sat on the tarmac, its engines still cooling down. Ellis escorted her to the base of the stairs leading up to the cabin. "Mr. Chase is waiting inside," he said, gesturing for her to ascend. With a final glance around the darkened airfield, Olivia climbed the stairs, her hand hovering near her concealed weapon. The cabin door opened as she approached, and there stood Nathan, looking tired but pleased to see her. "Patricia," he said warmly, stepping aside to let her enter. "Thank you for coming." The interior of the jet was luxuriously appointed, as she had expected. What she hadn't expected was the table set for dinner, complete with candles and the promised bottle of 82 Lafitte. "What acts all this?" she asked, momentarily thrown off balance by the romantic setting. Nathan's smile held a hint of mischief. "I couldn't await another day to see you, so I asked Martin to bring you to me the moment I landed." He gestured to the table. "And I promised you a dinner worthy of that wine." Relief mingled with confusion. "You flew halfway around the world and immediately arranged a dinner date." "I did," he admitted, looking slightly embarrassed. "Impulsive, I know." "If you'd rather go home—" "No," she interrupted, making a split-second decision to stay in character and seize the opportunity. "It's unexpected, but nice." They sat down to dinner, served by the jet's attendant, before they were left alone in the cabin. As they ate, Nathan told her about his trip, the business deals he had secured, the sights of Hong Kong. She listened attentively, filing away details that might be relevant to her investigation. "Enough about me," he said finally. "How was your week?" She told him about the lecture she'd given, the exhibitions she'd attended, carefully constructed activities that reinforced her cover identity. "I missed you," he said abruptly when she finished speaking, the directness of his confession catching her off guard. "I know it's ridiculous. We barely know each other. But there it is." As she reached across the table to take his hand, telling herself it was just part of her cover. "I missed you too." His expression softened, and he squeezed her hand gently. "There is something I want to show you." He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a small velvet box. For a disorienting moment she thought it might be a ring, which would have complicated her mission beyond measure. But when he opened it, inside was a delicate gold necklace with a pendant, a tiny replica of the Greek amphora from his study. "I had it made while I was in Hong Kong," he explained, "to remind you of the night we first kissed." The gesture was so unexpectedly thoughtful that she found herself momentarily speechless. This was the man the FBI had described as ruthless, calculating, coldly pragmatic in his criminal enterprises. "Sight is beautiful," she said finally, allowing him to place it around her neck. "Like you," he replied, his fingers lingering on her skin. Later, as his driver took them back to the city, Olivia rested her head against Nathan S.'s shoulder, feigning sleepiness while her mind raced. The necklace felt heavy against her skin, a tangible reminder of the increasingly blurred line between her mission and her emotions. Nathan Chase was becoming more than just a target, and that made him more dangerous than ever. Weeks slipped by as Olivia S.'s dual life became increasingly complicated. By day, she reported to Agent Winters, providing carefully curated intelligence about Nathan S.'s organization. By night, she found herself drawn deeper into Nathan S.'s world, attending charity galas on his arm, dining at exclusive restaurants, and spending quiet evenings at his estate. The amphora necklace rarely left her neck, becoming both a symbol of her deception and of something she wasn't ready to name. "The Bureau is getting impatient," Winters informed her during one of their secure meetings. They sat in a nondescript cafe, far from any of Nathan E.'s known territories. "We've been at this for months now. Either you get us something concrete, or we move to more aggressive tactics." "Such as?" Olivia asked, though she already knew the answer. "Surveillance warrants, wiretaps, maybe even a raid on his financial offices." The thought of armed agents storming into Nathan S.'s world sent a chill through her. That would destroy years of intelligence work. We'd never get close to his operation again. "Then get me something I can take to a judge," Winters replied, his patience visibly wearing thin. "Bank records, shipping manifests, communications with known associates, anything that proves what we both know is true." Olivia nodded, pushing aside the uncomfortable realization that part of her reluctance stemmed from more than just professional caution. "I need more time." "You have 2 weeks," Winters said, his tone making it clear the deadline was non-negotiable. "After that, we do it my way." That evening, she arrived at Nathan S. estate with a sense of purpose that had been flagging in recent days. While he finished a business call, she wandered through the house looking at the art collection she had come to know well. A staff member informed her that Nathan was running late and suggested she wait in his study. Alone in the book-lined room, Olivia faced a critical decision. Nathan A.'s computer sat on his desk, likely password-protected but potentially containing the evidence she needed. It was a significant risk. If caught, her cover would be blown instantly. But with Winter's deadline looming, she was running out of options. She sat at the desk attempting several password combinations before hitting on the right one, a reference to his mother's maiden name combined with his childhood address, details he had shared during their more intimate conversations. The ease with which she guessed it was both a relief and a reminder of how much Nathan had opened up to her. The computer unlocked, revealing a desktop organized with meticulous precision. She inserted a small flash drive, disguised as a house key on her keychain, and began copying files from folders labeled with company names she recognized from her investigation. She was so focused on her task that she didn't hear the study door open. "Find anything interesting?" Nathan's voice froze her in place. She turned slowly to find him leaning against the doorframe, his expression unreadable. "Nathan," she began, her mind racing for a plausible explanation. "I was just searching my computer for evidence of criminal activity," he suggested, walking into the room with measured steps. "Or perhaps looking for banking information to access my accounts." Her training kicked in, and she stood casually positioning herself for either defense or a quick exit. "I do not know what you are talking about." "Do not insult my intelligence, Olivia." The use of her real name hit her like a physical blow. "Or should I call you Agent Mills? That is your actual name, isn't it?" The pretense was over. She straightened, dropping the facade of Patricia Underwood. "How long have you known?" "Almost from the beginning," he said, pouring himself a drink from a crystal decanter on a side table. He didn't offer her one. "Did you really think I wouldn't run a background check on a beautiful stranger who suddenly appeared in my life? Patricia Underwood exists, yes, but she is currently in Florence on an extended sabbatical. You borrowed her identity quite skillfully, but not perfectly." Olivia's mind raced through her options. The study had only one exit, which Nathan was blocking. Her backup weapon was accessible, but drawing it would escalate the situation beyond repair. "So why the charade?" she asked. "Why let me get close if you knew I was investigating you?" Nathan swirled the amber liquid in his glass, considering her question. Initially, curiosity. I wanted to know what the FBI thought they had on me. Then, I'll admit, it became something of a game. His eyes met hers and she saw a flicker of something that looked almost like regret. And then, somewhere along the way, the game became complicated. Complicated, she repeated, the word inadequate for the tangled reality they found themselves in. Yes. He set down his glass and moved closer to her. Because despite knowing exactly who you are and why you were here, I found myself wishing the circumstances were different. The confession caught her off guard. You're a cartel boss, Nathan. You've built an empire on drugs, money laundering, and who knows what else. A strange smile crossed his face. So is that what the FBI told you? That I am some sort of drug kingpin? We have evidence, sir. You have assumptions based on incomplete information, he interrupted. Yes, my business practices haven't always been entirely above board. I've moved money through channels that exist in grey areas of international law. I've made deals with people whose ethics are questionable at best. But a drug cartel? He shook his head. That is not who I am. So then explain Global Bridge Investments. Explain the shipping containers from Colombia and Afghanistan. Explain the cash deposits in banks known for facilitating money laundering. Instead of answering, Nathan walked to a painting on the wall, a modern piece she had admired on previous visits. He swung it aside to reveal a safe which he opened with practiced ease. From inside, he removed a thick folder and placed it on the desk between them. See for yourself. Cautiously, Olivia opened the folder. Inside were documents detailing an extensive operation, not for drug trafficking, but for something else entirely. Witness extraction, she murmured, scanning the papers with growing confusion. My family came to this country as refugees, Nathan explained, watching her reaction carefully. My father always said we had a debt to pay to those who helped us escape. When he died, I found a way to honor that debt. The documents revealed a sophisticated network that helped extract dissidents, whistleblowers, and threatened individuals from dangerous regions around the world. The shipping containers transported people, not drugs. The money moved through offshore accounts to protect both the operation and those being rescued. We've helped over 300 people start new lives away from regimes that would have silenced them permanently, Nathan continued. People whose only crime was speaking truth to power. Olivia looked up from the documents, her worldview shifting uncomfortably. Why all the secrecy? This work? It's admirable. It's also highly illegal in many of the countries we operate in, and the individuals we extract often have powerful enemies who would go to extraordinary lengths to find them. He leaned against the desk. My legitimate businesses provide both the cover and the funding for this work. The restaurants, the hotels they re-reel, the profits they generate allow this operation to continue. And the FBI has been investigating you for years because... Her voice trailed off as pieces began falling into place. Because my methods look remarkably similar to those of actual criminal enterprises, he finished for her. From the outside, it's nearly impossible to distinguish between moving people and moving contraband. The revelation left her reeling. Either Nathan was telling the truth, and the entire premise of her investigation was flawed, or this was the most elaborate cover story she had ever encountered. I need to verify this, she said finally. Of course you do. You are good at your job, Olivia. It is one of the things I've become to admire about you. He gestured to the flash drive still plugged into his computer. Take it. Take all of it. Have your people look into every detail. She removed the drive, tucking it into her pocket. If this checks out, it doesn't absolve you of breaking laws. Moving people across borders illegally, falsifying documents, financial crimes. I am well aware of the legal implications of my choices, he interrupted gently. I made peace with those risks long ago. A heavy silence fell between them, filled with all the things they couldn't say. Finally, Olivia spoke the question that had been burning in her mind. What happens now? Nathan Sass' expression softened. That depends on you, I suppose, on whether the woman I've come to care for exists at all, or if she was just an elaborate fiction created for your cover. The raw vulnerability in his voice struck her deeply. Patricia Underwood was a cover, she admitted, but not everything was a lie. He reached out, his fingers lightly touching the amphora necklace at her throat. "No, Sad, no," she whispered, the truth of it finally clear to her. Their eyes held for a long moment, the future uncertain, but the present achingly real. "You should go," he said finally, stepping back. "You have a job to do, and I won to interfere with that." She nodded, gathering her composure. "This isn't a tea over, Nathan." "I never thought it would be," he replied with a sad smile. Days later, Olivia sat across from Assistant Director Keller, the head of the FBI TOS Organized Crime Division. Agent Winters sat beside her, his expression thunderous. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Keller said, reviewing the file before him. "You were telling me that Nathan Chase, the man we've been investigating for years as a suspected cartel leader, is actually running an underground railroad for political refugees and dissidents." "The evidence supports his claim," Olivia replied, keeping her voice steady. "We've verified the identities of dozens of individuals who have been resettled through his network. Their stories are consistent with the documentation I recovered." "This is absurd," Winters interjected. He was playing you, Mills. This is just an elaborate cover for his actual operation." "We've found no evidence of drug trafficking," she countered. "No weapons. The financial transactions all trace back to legitimate businesses or to expenses related to the extraction operations." Keller leaned back in his chair, clearly struggling with this unexpected development. "Even if what you are saying is true, Chase has still violated numerous federal laws. Immigration fraud, money laundering—" "Yes," Olivia acknowledged. "But the context matters. His actions, while illegal, have saved lives. People who would otherwise be imprisoned, tortured, or killed have been given a second chance because of his network." "Since when does the FBI consider context when enforcing federal law?" Winters demanded. "Since always," Keller replied, surprising them both. "We make judgment calls every day about resource allocation and prosecution priorities." He closed the file with a sigh. "This complicates things considerably." The meeting ended without a clear resolution. Keller promised to review the evidence thoroughly and consult with the Department of Justice before making any decisions about how to proceed. As Olivia left the building, she found Martin Ellis waiting beside a familiar black SUV. "Mr. Chase would like to speak with you," he said simply. She hesitated only briefly before getting into the vehicle. They drove in silence to a small park overlooking the Hudson River. Nathan was waiting on a bench, watching the water. "Thank you for coming," he said as she sat beside him. "How did you know I'd be there?" she asked. A small smile crossed his face. "I still have some resources within law enforcement. Nothing compromising. Just friends who keep me informed when my name comes up in certain circles." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, watching a boat cut across the river. "What did they decide?" he asked finally. "Nothing yet. The assistant director is reviewing the evidence, but it is complicated." Nathan nodded, unsurprised. "And what about you? What have you decided?" The question hung between them, heavy with implication. Olivia had spent days examining her feelings, trying to separate the professional from the personal. "I've requested a transfer," she said. "Regardless of what happens with the case, I can't be involved anymore. The conflict of interest is too significant." "Because of your feelings for me," and he said, not a question but a statement. "Yes?" He turned to face her fully. "Are those feelings real, Olivia? Or were they just part of your cover?" She met his gaze without hesitation. "They real. That is what makes this so difficult." "It doesn't have to be," he said, taking her hand. "My work, this operation I've built, it is important, but it's not the only thing that matters to me anymore." "What are you saying?" "I am saying I am willing to find a different path, one that does not put us on opposite sides of the law." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "The network is established enough now that it could continue under different leadership. People I trust who share the mission." The implication of his words took her breath away. "You'd walk away? From everything you've built?" "For the right reason," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "For the right person." 6 months later, the morning sun filtered through the windows of a beachfront villa on a small Mediterranean island. Olivia awoke to the sound of waves and the smell of coffee. She found Nathan on the terrace, reading the morning news on a tablet. "Anything interesting?" she asked, accepting the cup he offered her. "Global Bridge Investments has finalized its restructuring," he said, a note of pride in his voice. "Elena is doing an excellent job as CEO. The extraction network facilitated 3 successful operations last month." Olivia smiled, settling into the chair beside him. After months of negotiation, a remarkable arrangement had been reached. Nathan had stepped down from direct involvement in his underground network, transferring leadership to trusted associates. In exchange, the FBI had quietly deprioritized their investigation, focusing resources elsewhere. It wasn't a perfect solution. Nathan still maintained connections to his former life, serving as an advisor to the network from a distance. Olivia had left the FBI, unable to reconcile her personal life with her professional obligations. But they had found a middle ground, a space where they could build something together without compromising their core principles. "Do you miss it?" she asked, not for the first time. "The excitement, the risk?" "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I am finding other ways to make a difference." He gestured to his tablet, where plans for a new charitable foundation were outlined. "Using my legitimate resources to support refugees and asylum seekers, legally this time." She leaned over to kiss him, feeling the now familiar weight of the amphora necklace against her skin. It had become a symbol of their journey, the deceptions that had brought them together, and the truths that had ultimately united them. "What about you?" he asked. "Any regrets about leaving the bureau?" She considered the question. Her new work as a security consultant for international aid organizations kept her skills sharp while aligning with her values. "No regrets," she said finally. "Just gratitude for where the path has led." As they sat together watching the sunrise over the sea, Olivia reflected on the strange turns life could take. She had been sent to bring down a man she believed to be a criminal, only to discover a complicated truth: that good and evil rarely existed in absolutes, that justice sometimes required looking beyond the letter of the law, and that love could flourish in the most unlikely circumstances. The amphora necklace caught the light, golden against her skin, a reminder of the artifacts we all carry, the stories we tell ourselves and others, and the truth that eventually emerges when we have the courage to look deeper. Nathan took her hand, his thumb brushing over the simple gold band on her finger, a recent addition to their story. "Happy?" he asked, a question that had become a ritual between them. "Happy," she confirmed, knowing it was the simplest and most profound truth she had ever spoken. The past hadn't disappeared. The complexity of their beginning would always be part of their story, but they had found a way forward together, negotiating a path between idealism and pragmatism, between duty and desire. In the distance, a boat cut across the horizon, charting its own course across the vast blue sea. Like them, it was heading toward an unknown future, but with purpose, with hope, and with the profound understanding that the journey itself was the greatest reward of all. Wow, I told you that ending would be unexpected. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up and share your reactions in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Hearts of Crime for more captivating stories, just like this one every single day. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible tale of love in the criminal underworld. Thank you for watching until the end. May God bless you and your family, and I'll see you in the next video.